Hello and welcome to Outsiders Weather and the Skeptics Ice Age Watch, where an icy blast has sent temperatures plunging across Australia. They're even expecting snow in Queensland, and Australian skiers and snowboarders are flocking to ski resorts which, because of the extra cold weather, have opened earlier than expected. The famous perishing cold ski resort of Perisher this week announced it was opening a week earlier than the normal ski season due to the abundance of snow and the unusually cold conditions, in defiance of all those famous global warming experts who told us we would never see snow again after 2020. Indeed, if you get up to the snow, I hear they're offering special global warming ski passes. Just ask for a frozen flannery. And speaking of dud predictions, indeed dud prime ministers, remember this gem?
But it is important, I think, when we stand in these moments in time to remember the reason why we are here today debating this issue in the first place. We're here because our world is warming. Undeniably, it is warming. And I'm proud, at least, that 10 years on from when I first sat right over there, we're no longer having the debate over whether or not that is the case. We're merely debating what it is we do about it. Because undeniably our sea levels are rising. Undeniably we are experiencing extreme weather events, increasingly so. Our world is warming. And so therefore the question for all of us is, what side of history will we choose to sit on?
Actually, Jacinta, you'll find yourself sitting on the freezing side of history. Maybe you should look out the window from time to time. Thanks to undeniable global warming, Mackenzie's Basin in Omaroma is frozen solid.
This could be mistaken for a stunning work of art or a magical ice sculpture, but it's actually Omarama's fountain, frozen solid. Winter is just around the corner, but for some parts of the South Island, its bite has arrived earlier than expected.
Oh, really? Earlier than expected. As Electroverse points out, just last week, New Zealand was suffering an all-time record cold May and autumn and is now battling record-challenging volumes of early season snow, also known to locals as a Jacinta dump. Even our own Bureau of Meteorology were forced this week to admit that it was a very frosty morning across southeast Australia, with many inland places plunging well below 0 degrees. Melbourne had its coldest May morning since 1949, and in Adelaide, Nagaya Diripira, it was the equal coldest May morning since 1927. Oh, and if, like me, you were wondering what a Nagaya is, apart from what I normally end up with on my Scrabble rack at the end of the game, Nagaya is actually the new name for West Adelaide's weather station, and it means concerning the sky, as decreed by the Kalma Warra Karpanti Indigenous Naming Committee. I wonder how much that little exercise costs the taxpayer. Fortunately, courtesy of the ABC, Australians today have access to a perfect recreation of an Indigenous weather station, also known as a pascometer. But back to more global warming. There's just no escaping from it these days.
We have a very, very cold and foggy start, particularly in New South Wales. Temperatures right down around -5. I just checked a few moments ago in certain areas. Canberra at the moment, -3 and a very foggy start, but it all will lift today.
Indeed, this autumn was officially one of the coldest and wettest for years across many parts of Australia. Colder and wetter. So make that a double frozen flannery on ice. Cheers. Our cold spell began smashing records last weekend, with residents in some parts of the country waking up to the coldest morning in 70 years. And even Queensland, as I said, is now expecting snow. That's in the southern hemisphere, where we are, of course, heading into winter. So you would assume that in the northern hemisphere, in the very first week heading into summer, it would be record warm weather, thanks to catastrophic global heat. But no. According to Electroverse, well below average and record-breaking temperatures continue to grip swathes of the US. States from Arizona to New Brunswick were seeing temperatures some 30 degrees colder than normal. The historic station of Central Park observed a daytime high of just 10.6 degrees Celsius, a reading which ties the lowest maximum temperature ever recorded so late in the season, set back in 1884. Washington logged the coldest high temperature this late in the spring since 1997, which was during the solar minimum of cycle 22, prompting some to ask if summer would ever return to the Great Lakes and the Northeast. Baltimore had its coldest May 29th on record. Pittsburgh's high was its coldest on record, and it was also record cold if you happened to be wandering through the streets of Philadelphia.